What's up, guys? James Carter TV here for yet another one of my 2016 NBA draft scouting reports. And today we're talking about Buddy Hield. And then after this video, probably tomorrow, the day after that, we'll be discussing Jamal Murray. Because I think that would be a good, little comparison to do. They're both shooting guards. Both have similar games, but there are differences between them. And we're going to start with Buddy Hield today. Now, I'm going to get into this by first saying I like Buddy Hield. I may like him a lot, but, I question, though, where he's going to fit in the NBA. There's a certain guy or type of guy that I think he's going to be, and we're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk about his strengths, his weaknesses. I'll give you my pro comparison, my 5-year projection for him, and my overall grade on Buddy Hield. Let's start with his strengths, though. Elite three-point shooting ability. I mean, it is elite. I mean, this is one of the best three-point shooters I've seen coming out of college in a while. It is elite. I mean, this guy can hit all kinds of shots, especially catch and shoot. That is where he is so elite, especially in transition. I mean, you see Oklahoma, they like to get out, they like to move. Buddy Hield knows where to position himself behind the three-point line on transition and fast break opportunities, hitting three-point shots, crazily. This guy is an elite three-point shooter already going in the NBA, and he already has NBA range because he's so good at it in college. You could see multiple times he'd be 3-4 feet behind the three-point line at the top of the key, shooting it with no problem whatsoever. So his range is plenty good for the NBA, and it is elite, and you could see it every single game. That was his move. And the problem is, that's the problem. That's could be your only move. And we question, though, how much does he offer beyond that? But the way the league is moving, it's nice to have a three-point shooter, and he is definitely that. And also, he has a nice pull-up three-pointer. The problem is he goes to that a little too often, and he can't beat you in many other ways than that when we're talking about isolation plays, which is a big thing with Buddy Hield to me. Is he going to be a star player, your best player? Can you rely on him to be your best player? I'm not so sure of that. Let's continue with his strengths, though. He's a good slasher, and this was something that you couldn't say a number of years ago. Actually, you couldn't say anything a number of years ago because he didn't play. But he kept improving, and then now he's playing. And he wasn't a good finisher last year. This year became a pretty good finisher at the rim. Can still improve, but you're able to see a lot of upside there. Hit some spin moves when, traveling to the rim. Has some nice, creativity in terms of his finishing moves as well. So you like that potential there. And then my last strength, he has great intangibles. I think the best intangibles coming out of this draft. A guy that you can trust, will put in the hard work. He's clutch, plenty of clutch shots for Oklahoma, led them to the Final Four. Didn't lead them to the championship, but led them far enough. Came up big. He's a Bahamian kid from the Bahamas. Worked hard to get to this point. You talk to him. He worked hard to improve in college from being a damn bench warmer to the player he is today. Great intangibles, the best intangibles of any prospect in this draft. But there are weaknesses here. Number one, he's not good defensively. Now, the good thing is, like I just talked about, he gives great effort. So this can improve. But athletically, it's not there. He absolutely gets blazed past by point guards when he defends point guards, fast shooting guards. He's going to have big problems guarding slashing types like James Harden's that will absolutely blow past him with their good handles and deceptive attitude. He can't guard point guards like Russell Westbrook or Chris Paul. He won't be able to stay in front of them. He also has mental lapses defensively. When off the ball, he loses recognition and awareness of where the people he's defending, where his matchups are on the court. They'll move out to the three-point line. He will have no idea. They'll hit a three and he'll be like, oh man, I wasn't paying attention. A lot of this happens with him. He likes to fight off screens, so I'll give him that. But the defense has to improve, and I'm not sure how much it can improve because he just doesn't have good lateral quickness. It doesn't come to him naturally at all. And that's something that you just can't fix. Trust me, I played basketball, and there are guys that they just don't have the quickness to be able to keep up with the fast guards that even in high school. So definitely in the NBA, this is going to be a problem for him. He's not a great athlete. You know, you saw some spin moves to the rim, some burst, but in isolation, and that's my big thing with Buddy Hield. In isolation plays. When executing isolation plays, you know he's going to pull up. So a lot of defenders, they like to play him tight, and it's time when a defender plays you tight, it's time to blow past him to the rim, take it to the rack. And he just can't explode and burst past a lot of defenders at the collegiate level, and it's definitely not going to happen at the NBA level. I know that for sure, for certain. In terms of finishing at the rim, you know, won't posterize anybody, which, I mean, isn't a big deal. I mean, you don't need to be a great posterizer to make it in the NBA, but it's just something that you know you're not gonna get, and that's a lot of upside there that he doesn't possess and won't give you. Tunnel vision, big problem here. So he was the best player at Oklahoma, ran a lot of isolation plays and whatnot. But when he says, I have the ball, I'm scoring, and that to him, that's it. And he's going to go to the rack or he's going to shoot a three, doesn't like to pass very much. Also, big problem, when he does pass, he turns the ball over a lot. He doesn't have a very good ball handling ability right now. That needs to improve as well. A lot of turnovers, balls just taken away from him. A lot of balls where, he got caught up in the defender caught him up so he can't take any more steps. He's looking, he throws, just trying to make a pass, gets turnovers consistently on that. He's going to need to be well coached to get these tunnel vision gunner mode plays out of his system, because it's a big problem right now for him. And a lot of it, he had more turnovers than assists at the collegiate level. That's something that's very hard to improve at the NBA level. And finally, my last thing, struggled against elite defenses. When defenses pressure him, they stick to him hard. He has issues getting off of these elite defenders because, as I talked about before, he's not a great athlete. He can't explode past a lot of these guards and keeping them honest. They're just gonna. It was very hard to do, by the way, but they're going to stick to him. That's very hard to do, and you can run screens for him, get him open, get him threes, and he will knock them down. 46% three-point percentage is fantastic. That's his strength. So the question is, and this is a big question for me, can he be your best player? And if you want to be a good team, no. You cannot rely, to me, on him ever being someone that you can give the ball to in isolation and getting consistent points, winning basketball games. I don't see it. But with that said, I think he can be a damn good number 3 guy, number 4 guy on a championship team. Now, here's the thing. It all depends on where he goes. It's time to give my 5-year projection, and it all depends on where he goes. Let me tell you something about this guy, Kevin Martin. Remember Kevin Martin? This guy played for the Houston Rockets, was bad defensively, but boy, could he put up points. And he averaged 23 points per game 1 year. And I think his career average is about 17. I think that's the type of guy we're talking about here. If he's playing for a bad team, like let's say the Sacramento Kings, right? He's going to average 20. Now, if he's playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Golden State Warriors, he's going to average 12. He's going to be a bench player, a sixth man, and a pretty good one, but not someone that, will make a huge, and he'll make an impact, but, you'll look at it and you'll say, yeah, that's all he is. So it all depends on where he goes, but he's probably going to go to a bad team. Let's look at the best fits first. Best fits, Boston Celtics. They need scoring at the shooting guard position. He would offer that. New Orleans Pelicans. They need scoring at the shooting guard position. Eric Gordon is an upcoming free agent. Buddy Hield can be better than Eric Gordon ever was, I believe. So that'd be a nice fit. Sacramento Kings. I just talked about them. They've been looking for their shooting guard for years. They took Ben McLemore and Nick Stauskas and CJ McCollum and none of them have really panned out. I think Buddy Hield would be good, and he probably averaged 20 there. And then we move on to Toronto Raptors. They're scheduled to lose DeMar DeRozan in free agency. He could come in and provide a nice scoring burst for that team, although they wouldn't be very good defensively in the backcourt, but they're not very good defensively in the backcourt right now anyway. So, here's my 5-year projection, and it's tough because, as I said, he's a guy that could average 20 for a bad team because they need someone to score, and if you give him the ball enough, he will score. But I don't think you want him as your best player. Now, with that said, though, if he can fix some things, if he can get better against isolation, if he can learn how to maybe get better ball handling to defeat some of these guards that are on ball defending him, he could, like I said, average over 20 points a game and be an all-star. So here's what I settled with. I settled with 18 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 47% field goal percentage, and 41% three-point percentage. It could be as high as 22, and I think it could be as low as 15, but I think it's within that range. It all depends on where he goes and what he is asked to do. That is why I compare him to CJ McCollum of the Portland Trail Blazers and Kevin Martin. Kevin Martin and him have a similar game from the three-point aspect, and defensively they're not very good. And then CJ McCollum, they're pretty much clones. 6'4", CJ McCollum's 200, Buddy Hield's 215, so he has a better build than CJ McCollum. But a guy that takes a lot of threes. CJ McCollum's three-point attempts take up for about 33% of his field goal attempts. Kevin Martin, during the height of his career, about 33%. Buddy Hield is about 50. He's 50 coming out of college. In fact, I think it's over 50. So it was hard to find a good comparison there. I guess in terms of a guy that would take that many threes, that would be over 50%, it would be J.R. Smith right now. But he's not athletically, he's not good enough to finish at the rim like a J.R. Smith was coming out. I mean, I guess you compare him to J.R. Smith right now. So I'll add that comparison. So when I say C.J. McCollum, Kevin Martin, and J.R. Smith, I'm talking about right now. Like these guys right now, not in their prime. And he's actually compares to Kevin Martin, though, in his prime. So, there's that. In terms of, I think we pretty much talked about everything. In terms of my grade, okay. So here's my grading scale. It's in the description box below. All this information, by the way, is in the description box below. When you look at my grading scale, first of all, let's give you some sort of reference and context. So last year, I gave Karl-Anthony Towns a grade of 92. The 90 to 94 range is perennial all-star player, top 3 to top 5 at your position, right? So that is where I had Karl-Anthony Towns at a 92. I had Brandon Ingram this year thus far, 93. I had Ben Simmons at a 92. So those are my perennial all-star players. I think they're going to make the all-star team. In fact, I think all of those guys are going to be top 10 players in the NBA. Top 15, close in that range. So you move on to the next one, 85 to 89. These are the occasional all-star players. If I had to put a name on this would be like Paul Gasol out of, right now the Chicago Bulls, Los Angeles Lakers, guy that can make all-star teams, but he's not a perennial all-star guy. He doesn't make the all-star team every year, but he has made it probably, I don't know, Paul Gasol maybe 4 or 5 times Paul Gasol's made it. I can't put Buddy Hield here. I'd be pretty surprised if he ever got here. I mean, if he can improve these things, I think it's possible. I'm not betting on that. Now, we move on to the next one, 80 to 84. These are my above average starters. These guys have a chance to make an all-star team or two. This is where I'm placing him. I think he's going to be an above average starter for the majority of his early career. But probably what's going to happen, and this is what happened to Kevin Martin, and this is what happened to Jamal Crawford, and this is what happened to these 20-point per game guys that aren't very good. Someone's going to come along, sign them, and say, you're going to be a sixth man for us. And I think that's going to be his ultimate fate. But I think for a good 5, 6, 7 years, he's going to start, and he's going to be a pretty damn good starter.